By the time I finish this sentence, someone in America will have had a stroke. The latest numbers are sobering. Every 2 seconds, a stroke strikes somewhere in the world. And here in the United States, that is once every 40 seconds, around the clock, every single day. Stroke now claims more than 12 million lives and families worldwide each year. In America alone, nearly 800,000 people are affected annually. It ranks as the second leading cause of death across the globe and the fifth right here at home. And the truth that keeps me awake at night, the truth nobody seems to be saying loudly enough, is that most of those strokes announce themselves days before they arrived, and there are foods sitting in ordinary grocery stores that can quiet that threat before it ever becomes a crisis. I have lived for 103 years, and I want to tell you something that no statistic can capture. I have watched stroke take people, not strangers in a news report, people I loved, people who sat at my kitchen table, people who called me on my birthday. My dearest friend of over 60 years, a woman named Dorothy, had been complaining for 2 days that her left hand felt strange, tingly, she said, like it had fallen asleep and couldn't quite wake up. She thought it was her arthritis. She thought it was the cold weather. She went to bed on a Tuesday night, and by Wednesday morning, she could not get up. She survived, but the Dorothy who came home from that hospital was not the same Dorothy who used to beat me at cards every Friday evening. The laugh was still there sometimes, but the words were gone. I have never stopped thinking about those 2 days when her body was sending a message that none of us knew how to read. And I want to share with you the 5 foods I eat every single week that my doctors believe have helped protect my blood vessels all these years. Foods I wish I had known about when Dorothy was still here to share them with me. My name is Mabel Rose Thompson. I was born in 1922 on a small farm in Tennessee. I have buried my husband, my 2 sisters, and more friends than I care to count. And yet, I am still here, in my own home, cooking my own breakfast. If you'd like to make friends and share your health journeys with me and others, please drop your name and age in the comments below. I have battled almost every illness and hardship that comes with old age, and I always wished I had friends by my side to share it all with. Sharing with folks who are actually living through their golden years is far more valuable than advice from a 35-year-old doctor reading out of a medical textbook. I am not saying this to brag. I'm telling you this because what follows isn't theory. This is real life. I want to talk about the stroke cases I have witnessed up close because I think stories teach us things that statistics cannot. Dorothy, whom I mentioned, was the one that changed everything for me, but she was not the only one. My internist for many years, a brilliant man, a kind man, someone who had cared for me and my husband through decades of illness and recovery, had a massive stroke at the age of 71. He had high blood pressure that was, in his own words, well managed. He was not overweight. He did not smoke. He exercised. And yet, he spent the last 4 years of his life in a care facility, able to communicate only with great difficulty. Years later, a second doctor of mine, a cardiologist I had seen for about a decade, had a TIA, what doctors call a transient ischemic attack, a warning stroke, at the age of 67. He ignored it for 3 days because, as he later admitted to me, I thought I knew enough to know it wasn't serious. He was fortunate. The full stroke that followed did not take his life, but it took his career. I say this not to frighten you, but to say something I believe very sincerely. Old age contains experiences that even the most well-trained physician has not personally had. There is a kind of knowledge that only comes from living inside a body for a very long time, from paying attention to it, from watching other bodies fail and succeed. My doctors have given me enormous gifts, but I have also, over the years, given them something back, a perspective they could not find in any textbook. The most important thing I learned from watching Dorothy, from watching my doctors, from reading everything I could get my hands on about stroke, is this: the brain almost always sends warnings. We just do not know how to recognize them. What your body is trying to tell you, the 5 warning signs before a stroke. Before a full stroke, many people experience what is called a transient ischemic attack, a TIA. Think of it as a dress rehearsal that the brain desperately does not want to have to perform. A blood vessel briefly spasms, or a tiny clot briefly blocks blood flow to part of the brain. For a few seconds or a few minutes, a section of the brain essentially goes dark. Then blood flow returns and the symptom fades, and people, almost universally, tell themselves it was nothing. It is not nothing. In fact, research has established clearly that a TIA very often precedes a full stroke within 72 hours. Those 3 days are your window. That is when you can still act. The first warning sign is sudden, temporary blindness in one eye. You may be going about your morning, walking to the kitchen, stepping out of the shower, and suddenly one eye goes dark. Not blurry, not dim, dark, like a curtain has been pulled down over it. It lasts perhaps 30 seconds, perhaps a minute, and then it lifts and you think, how strange, maybe I stood up too fast. What is actually happening is this: a tiny clot or fragment of plaque has broken off from the wall of your carotid artery, the main artery in your neck that carries blood to your brain, and has traveled up and briefly plugged the artery that feeds your eye. That artery is not a random isolated tube. It is a direct branch of the same internal carotid artery that feeds your brain. The clot drifts away, blood flow returns, and the vision comes back. You feel lucky, but that exact same clot could have gone 2 millimeters in another direction and lodged in a brain artery instead. Neurologists call this amaurosis fugax, Latin for fleeting blindness. When a patient describes this symptom, they treat it like a fire alarm. If you experience this, please do not wait to see if it happens again. Please contact a physician that same day. The second warning sign is sudden numbness or tingling on one side of your body, not the pins and needles of having slept on your arm, not the gradual ache of arthritis. This is the sudden onset, while you are sitting, walking, talking, of a strange sensation in one arm, one hand, one side of your face, or even one entire side of your body. It feels like cotton or rubber or something not quite yours anymore, and then, within minutes, it fades. Here is the key: one-sided. Each hemisphere of your brain controls the opposite side of your body. When a portion of the brain that maps sensation loses blood flow, the corresponding body part loses sensation. When both hands go numb evenly, that more often points to issues in the neck or spine. But one-sided sudden numbness that resolves on its own is a reason to call your doctor immediately. The third warning sign is a sudden loss of coordination, what people describe as a drunk walk without the alcohol. You are on a familiar floor, a floor you have walked 1,000 times, and suddenly your foot lands wrong. Your leg feels rubbery. You catch yourself on the wall, or you are hit with a violent spinning sensation that has no cause. You did not move your head sharply. You did not stand up suddenly. You were simply standing still. The part of your brain responsible for balance and coordinating smooth movement is the cerebellum, which sits at the base of your skull. It receives its blood supply from arteries that run up through the bones of your neck. If those arteries are briefly compromised, the cerebellum essentially glitches, and you suddenly veer sideways, misstep, or feel as though the room is moving when it is not. Many people attribute these episodes to bad shoes, fatigue, or just getting older. They are often something far more important. The fourth warning sign is sudden, severe disruption of speech. I want to be careful here, because this is an area where people frequently worry unnecessarily. If you occasionally forget the word you were looking for, or temporarily cannot retrieve the name of an acquaintance, that is normal. That is what tired brains do, and it happens more as we age, and it is not a stroke warning sign. What I am describing is something different entirely. There are two main speech areas in the brain. One helps you form and produce words. When it loses blood flow, you may understand perfectly what someone is saying to you. You may know exactly what you want to answer, but you cannot get the words out. They come out slurred or stuck or wrong. The other area helps you understand language and organize sentences. When it is in trouble, a person may speak fluently but say complete nonsense, a word salad that makes no sense, and may not understand what is being said to them. If either of those things happens to you, suddenly, even briefly, even for 2 minutes, and then resolves on its own, please do not dismiss it as fatigue. You cannot ignore a speech disruption that's self-corrected any more than you can ignore a smoke alarm that stopped ringing on its own. The fact that it stopped does not mean there was no fire. The fifth warning sign is the combination of a skin condition called vitiligo with new, unusually intense headaches. Vitiligo is an autoimmune condition. The immune system attacks the pigment-producing cells in your skin, creating patches of pale or white skin. When the immune system misfires this way, it very often does not limit its attack to one organ. That same inflammatory process can damage the endothelium, the microscopically thin inner lining of your blood vessels, a lining that functions like a smooth non-stick surface. When the endothelium is healthy, blood flows cleanly. When it is inflamed and damaged, it becomes rough and sticky, a perfect landing surface for cholesterol, platelets, and clots. If you have vitiligo and have recently developed headaches that are more frequent or more intense than your usual pattern, please mention both of these things together to your physician and ask for a vascular evaluation. And please, hear me on this, do not simply reach for a painkiller and move on. Headaches need to be decoded, not just numbed. What is actually destroying your blood vessels? From the inside, there is a myth I want to address directly because I hear it repeated constantly. My cholesterol is normal, so I'm not at risk for stroke. Your stroke risk is not solely determined by what is floating in your blood. It is very significantly determined by the condition of that endothelial lining, that inner surface of your arteries. The first major enemy of that lining is chronically elevated blood sugar. When your body cannot move glucose efficiently from the bloodstream into cells, either because it does not produce enough insulin or because your cells have become resistant to it, the vessel lining cells are essentially starving while surrounded by fuel. Starving cells become damaged, they lose their structure. They can peel away from the arterial wall, leaving behind rough, scarred patches that cannot flex and respond the way healthy tissue can. Those rough patches become landing pads for bad cholesterol, for platelets, for all the materials that become plaque. This process begins years before anyone officially diagnoses you with diabetes. Even the gray zone of pre-diabetes, where blood sugar is only modestly elevated, is enough to quietly injure your endothelium over time. The second great enemy is smoking, and if you still smoke at any age, I am asking you from my 103 years of living to please get the help you need to stop. Every cigarette delivers chemicals that cause direct inflammatory damage to the inner surface of your blood vessels, while simultaneously making your blood thicker, stickier, and more prone to clotting. Put a damaged vessel wall together with thick blood, and you have created ideal conditions for a clot to lodge in a brain artery. Smokers have 2 to 4 times the stroke risk of non-smokers with otherwise similar health profiles. And blood pressure. Here I want to share something that genuinely surprised me when I first learned it. Most people know that high blood pressure is a stroke risk factor, but far fewer people know that many ischemic strokes happen not at a blood pressure peak, but at a relative low point. If you have an artery that is already narrowed by plaque, it is like a water pipe that someone has squeezed in the middle. As long as overall pressure is high enough, some flow squeezes through. But when pressure falls, as it naturally does during sleep, dropping 15 to 20%, that reduced flow through an already narrowed channel can drop to nearly zero. This is one reason some people go to bed feeling perfectly fine and wake up with stroke symptoms, or do not wake up at all. The 5 foods I eat every week, and why I believe they have protected me now. The part you have been patient enough to wait for. I want to tell you about the foods that have become, for me, not just meals, but medicine. I wish I had understood their importance decades earlier. I wish I had been able to share this knowledge with Dorothy. The first group I think of as the repair crew, foods rich in antioxidants. Your blood vessel lining, when it is damaged and inflamed, is essentially under oxidative stress, like metal beginning to rust from the inside. Antioxidants are the compounds that interrupt that rusting process, and the most powerful sources I know of and eat regularly are berries and citrus fruits, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. I eat them 4 or 5 times a week, usually stirred into my morning oatmeal or blended into a simple smoothie with a little plain yogurt. Studies have shown that regular berry consumption helps dilate blood vessels and reduce endothelial inflammation. The flavonoids they contain are among the most effective plant compounds we know of for vascular health. If chewing is a challenge, a smoothie works beautifully, and I find a cold blueberry and banana smoothie in the morning is actually something I look forward to. Citrus fruits, a grapefruit at lunch, or oranges provide vitamin C and plant compounds that research links to reduced arterial stiffness. A blood vessel that can flex is a vessel less likely to crack under pressure. The second group I think of as the plaque engineers, foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids, fatty fish, salmon, sardines, herring, mackerel, I eat fish at least twice a week, and I have for the better part of 40 years. Omega-3 fatty acids do several things that matter enormously for stroke prevention. They help lower triglycerides, the blood fats that contribute to plaque. They reduce platelet aggregation, which means they make your blood less prone to forming the kind of clots that block brain arteries, and they reduce systemic inflammation throughout the body. For those of us whose teeth are no longer what they once were, or whose digestive system prefers gentler foods, fatty fish is genuinely kind. Canned sardines in olive oil, mashed gently and served on soft whole grain bread, were a staple my late husband and I ate together for decades. Salmon baked until it is very soft, flaked into a warm soup, gentle, nourishing, and extraordinarily protective. The third group supports blood pressure and works by helping blood vessels relax. Dark leafy greens, spinach, broccoli, kale. These vegetables contain potassium, and more importantly, they are rich in natural nitrates. When your body processes dietary nitrates, it converts them into nitric oxide, a molecule that signals the smooth muscle in your blood vessel walls to relax and widen. Wider, more relaxed vessels mean lower pressure. For anyone cooking these for an older palate, boiling them until very soft, or adding them to soups and stews makes them easy to enjoy without sacrificing their benefit. Garlic. I want to speak up for garlic, which has been a part of my cooking my entire life, and which I will defend to my last breath. The compound allicin, released when fresh garlic is chopped or crushed, has a meaningful effect on blood vessel dilation and on reducing platelet stickiness. I mince a clove of garlic into nearly everything I make: soups, beans, vegetable dishes. It is not medicinal, it is delicious, and apparently it has been protecting my arteries for a century. The fourth group controls blood sugar, which, as we discussed, is one of the primary attackers of your endothelium: oatmeal and whole grains. My breakfast has been some form of oatmeal almost every morning for the past 40 years, and I believe this more than almost any other single habit. Unlike refined white rice or white bread, which cause blood sugar to spike rapidly and then crash, oatmeal and brown rice contain soluble fiber. That fiber slows the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream, keeping blood sugar stable and keeping HbA1c, the 3-month average blood sugar measurement, in a healthy range. For the elderly, or for anyone who finds whole grains hard to digest, slow-cooked oatmeal, very soft, very creamy, is perfect. I make mine with a handful of blueberries, a small drizzle of honey, and sometimes a few crushed walnuts on top, which brings me to my next point. Legumes, lentils, black beans, red beans are another extraordinary tool for blood sugar control. They provide plant-based protein without the blood sugar response that refined carbohydrates create. A bowl of lentil soup several times a week is something I genuinely love. The fact that it is also protecting my blood vessels feels like an added gift. The fifth group works on cholesterol, specifically the ratio between good and bad cholesterol in the bloodstream: avocado and extra virgin olive oil. These foods provide monounsaturated fats, the kind that research consistently shows raise HDL, the good cholesterol, and lower LDL, the bad cholesterol that contributes to plaque buildup in arteries. I use olive oil as my primary cooking fat. I have half an avocado most days, usually at lunch, sliced simply with a little lemon and salt. These are not diet foods. They are genuine, whole, nourishing foods that happen also to be doing extraordinary work inside your arteries. Walnuts and almonds. If dental issues make chewing difficult, walnut milk is a wonderful solution, and homemade walnut milk is simple to prepare. Walnuts in particular are rich in alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 that has been shown to be meaningfully protective for the cardiovascular system. A small handful of walnuts or a glass of walnut milk several times a week is a habit I would encourage anyone to develop. A word about the 3 tests, worth asking your doctor about. If you have experienced any of the 5 warning signs I described, even once, even briefly, even months ago, there are 3 evaluations I want to encourage you to discuss with your physician. The first is a carotid duplex ultrasound, an imaging test of the main arteries in your neck that shows both the physical structure of the vessel and how blood is actually flowing through it. If a carotid artery is narrowed by 70% or more by plaque, the risk of stroke becomes very real and very imminent, and there are interventions available. The second is an HbA1c blood test, the measure of your average blood sugar over the past 3 months. This test catches pre-diabetes long before it has been formally diagnosed, and catching it early means you can protect your blood vessels before the damage compounds. A result under 5.7% is normal. Between 5.7 and 6.4% is pre-diabetes. At 6.5% or above, diabetes is the diagnosis. The third is a Holter monitor, a small wearable device that records your heart rhythm continuously for 24 hours. The reason this matters for stroke is atrial fibrillation, a heart rhythm disorder in which the upper chambers of the heart quiver chaotically instead of beating in an organized pattern. When the atria quiver, blood pools and churns rather than flowing cleanly, and clots form very easily. Those clots can travel to the brain. Atrial fibrillation is often silent. Most people who have it feel at most occasional flutters or skipped beats. But when it is identified, there are medications that can reduce stroke risk in this condition by 60 to 70%. Please write these 3 tests on a piece of paper and bring them to your next appointment. Ask specifically whether they are appropriate in your situation. You deserve a specific number-based answer, not simply, everything looks fine. The thing I have learned that no doctor ever prescribed me, I want to close with something that I believe is as important as any food, any test, any medical intervention, perhaps more important. I have seen people with perfect diets and perfect blood pressure readings who were hollow inside, who had nothing to get up for in the morning, who had given up being curious about the world, given up reaching toward other people, given up the sense that their presence meant something, and I have watched those people decline in ways that their lab results did not predict. And I have seen people in genuinely difficult physical circumstances, people managing real limitations, real pain, who were sustained by something that no prescription could provide, a sense of purpose, a set of values they lived inside of, consistently, every single day, genuine love for the people around them. I have thought a great deal over 103 years about what has kept me here, and I keep returning to 3 principles that have shaped my life for as long as I can remember: truthfulness, compassion, and patience. And truthfulness with yourself most of all, honest about what your body is telling you, honest about what you need, honest in your relationships, even when honesty is uncomfortable, because the weight of untruth is something the body carries in ways we do not fully understand. Compassion, this is the one I want to speak to most directly. There is a particular kind of peace that comes from genuinely trying to feel what another person is feeling, from putting down your own concerns for a moment and entering someone else's experience with real care. I have found consistently, across an entire century of living, that the times I was most consumed by my own suffering were the times I was most turned inward, and the times I felt most alive, most purposeful, most, if I am being honest, most healthy, were the times I was turned outward, attending to someone else's pain, writing a letter, making a phone call, sitting with someone who needed company. The soul that gives does not empty, it fills. Patience with yourself, with the process of aging, with the people in your life who are also struggling. Patience is not passivity. Patience is the decision to remain present rather than to spend your energy raging against what cannot be changed. It is the practice that has saved my peace of mind more times than I can count. I want to ask something specific of you. If there is someone in your life who is lonely right now, and there almost certainly is, I want to encourage you to reach out to them this week, not with a text if you can avoid it, with a phone call or a handwritten letter or a visit if that is possible. The research on social isolation and its effects on physical health is genuinely alarming. Loneliness is as damaging to the body as smoking. And on the other side of that equation, purpose, the feeling that your presence in the world matters to someone, is one of the most powerful medicines available to any of us at any age. You have value, your experience has value, your attention has value. The simple act of reaching toward another person, of saying I am here and I am thinking of you, is an act that heals both the giver and the receiver. I have made it to 103. I do not know how many more mornings I will have with my herb garden and my oatmeal and my phone calls and my letters. But I know that every one of those mornings has been made richer by the people in my life. Old friends, new friends, strangers who left their names in comment sections. So leave your name below. Tell me how old you are. Tell me something about your life. I will be here.